So when I think about that journey, okay, and the beginning of that journey, there's 11 things that I credit to accountability. Because if you were to ask me, Jeff, what is the one it factor in doing 100 times 10 or doing 1,000 or doing both, what is the it factor? And my response would be embracing accountability at the highest level. That's the it factor. Because you know what's interesting? In the real estate offices I was in, there were people just as talented as I was. I mean, I was a furniture salesperson, for gosh sakes. I didn't finish college. I didn't have any special talent. I sold furniture while I was in high school and I got my real estate license. End of story. I never finished college. And I just stuck with real estate. So I didn't have any special skill. I didn't have any family in the business or any of that. So I thought, what was the it factor? And it was the level at which I embraced accountability. And if James O'Tailing were up here right now, and I know he coaches several of you in the room, he would agree with that. Because if he were to look back through his notes, I bet every single call we had a conversation of what new accountability I can implement. What can we do this week as it relates to your accountability, Jeff? Here's the 11 things I did. Ready to write this down. Number one. Now, I mentioned there would only be one about coaching. It is the first one, but it was the first step. I'm not suggesting it's the first step for you. You might not be ready for it right now, but it was my first step. Number one, I hired a coach when I couldn't afford it. I hired a coach when I couldn't afford it. I actually put in my notes because I had to go back and look it up. When I joined coaching that year, I did 17 transactions the year I signed up for coaching. In Detroit. No joke, I mean, I joke about the $140 thing, but really my average sales price was $148,000. 17 units times $148,000. Do the math. I had to put it on a credit card. So after the first year, I got to 38 units after I joined. Thank you for that, James. And then a lot of you know what happened after that, 100 deals after that. Number two, when I think about those first couple of years, the difference between me and the rest of the agents as it relates to accepting accountability, I got into the office earlier than everyone else. I got into the office earlier than everyone else, including the front desk staff, with one exception. I got into the office earlier than everyone else, with the exception of with the exception of one person, and that gentleman's name was Frank Felt, who, by the way, I've reached out to. He hasn't responded to me yet. No, really, I want to have we have some history. We have some great stories. I'd like to talk to him. He's still in Detroit. I don't know if he's still selling real estate or not. But anyways, this was the gentleman that my first coach, James O'Tailing, said, Jeff, you need to find someone in the office to hold you accountable to getting in earlier because this 9:30 crap isn't cutting it. The average agent gets into the office at 9 or 9:30. You're not average. You want to sell 100 houses, don't you? Yeah. So he said, okay, you need to be the first one in. All right, what time do I need to be in? You need to be in at 7:30. All right. He said, do you know anyone else that's in the office at 7:30? I said, there's this one guy. His name's Frank. He's always in. He said, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write, some of you heard the story because some of you, we've coached you to do this as well. You're going to write Frank 5 $100 checks. In today's money, it'd be like five $500 checks. You're going to write 5 $100 checks, and you're going to give Frank permission. This conversation was in December of 2007. You're going to give Frank permission to cash a check every time you're in the office, Monday through Friday, later than 7:30. You're going to hand him an envelope of 5, and I'll never forget the conversation, James, so thank you. James was smart because he said, Jeff, and you're not just going to hand him one check. Because if you do this once and he cashes that check, then it's kind of like, all right, well, that didn't work. That accountability is out the window. What's next? He said, no, you're going to give him an envelope of 5. Because after you fail once, you got 4 more opportunities to fail. If you fail again, you got 3 more until they're all cashed. By the way, I'm sharing this story because that was part of the formula for selling 100 houses. That year I sold 102 houses. No team, no admin, just me doing this and doing this. And that year also, Frank cashed all 5 of my checks. So I think about, like, if I'm going to give advice today on this one, if you're going to do this with someone in your office or someone in your circle or someone in your network, try to find someone that also struggles with getting in the office early. No, seriously. So that way you can get some of your money back. Okay? But we have clients today that have written checks. I mean, I have checks on my desk for not $100, for $500 or $1,000, written to their number one competitor in their market, or written to a political party that they don't believe in, or written to this side, or written to that side. Oh yeah, you don't do A, B, and C. We're sending this check to this foundation that you don't believe in, to this person that you're going to have to explain to them, right, Connor? You're going to have to explain why I'm sending you a $500 check, my number one competitor. The greater level of accountability, the more likely it's going to happen. That's number 2. Number 3, I created a cumulative board, so I always knew where I was. Now, some of you, I did this like live at the retreat. So I had them just create a more professional version. I'll have them throw that up on the screen so you can take a picture of it. But I created a cumulative board, so I always knew where I was. And some of our great coaching clients today, they have the same board or a similar version of this board in their office. Because it will never, this cumulative board, I swear, I mean, I came up with 11 things here. And on these 11 things, I'm probably going to say, this is the most important, this is the most important, 5 or 6 different times. I'm telling you, this was a difference maker for me. Why? Because you know how it is. You're all talented, all right? You all know you can turn it on when you need to, okay? Where are my high eyes in the room? High expresses, where are you at? High eyes in the room, okay? I'm sorry, but you have what I call the curse of the high eye. It's a double-edged sword. Why? Because you know you can turn it on when you need to, don't you? You know you can BS with the best of them and get out there and get listings and sales anytime you need to. And that's the problem. You know you can turn it on when you need to. So then when it gets boring and mundane, you don't stick with it. This is boring and mundane. This is staring me in the face every single day in all of the years of selling over 100 homes per year. So what's going on here? Well, what I identify in these categories, because I put together a professional business plan, because I'm a professional salesperson, in my business plan, I have all of these numbers identified that I need to do every single month. And then to the right where it says A, now this isn't to scale because it's just on a piece of paper. This, if you can imagine a big whiteboard where you can actually write in income paid and closed volume. The N stands for needed. The A stands for actual. And so when I'm looking at a number of closed transactions, which by the way, if your goal is to sell 100 homes per year, your closed transaction goal per month is 8. So when my goal is to sell 100 a year and I need to close 8 transactions per month, then it says 8 down there under the N category. But in January, because it's a slower month and people don't move as much and it's the holidays and all this other stuff, I only had 4. So I got to write a 4 next to closed transactions under the A category in January. But here's what I don't get to do. I don't get to write 8 in February because that's my goal each month. Do you know what I have to write in February? What number? 12. Oh, but it's the middle of winter. Pipes are freezing. No one's buying or selling. It's a leap year. It's a longer month. It's a shorter month. I'm not going to get to 12 closings in the month of February. So then I have 6 or 7 again. And now all of a sudden it's March. The number's not 8. The number's now like 18. I remember, and trust me when I tell you, we're going to find these pictures because every year at the end of the year, I took a picture of my cumulative board and I slid it as part of my business plan of my results from the previous year. There were months in the middle of the summer, like June, July, it would say closings needed, 27. And then right next to that, closings actual, 21. And then when I do 21 of 27, that's actually 2 ahead of where I need to be. So the next month come July, I don't need 8 anymore. I only need 6. It works in the reverse as well. When you're overperforming, you actually get to adjust down. All right. Of course, in the beginning part of the year, you're almost always going to be a little bit behind. That's just called life. That was the difference maker, the cumulative board. Number 4. These are all of the accountabilities I implemented the first couple years of selling 100 plus. These are all the things that I think are the hang-ups that most in the audience who want to go from 25 to 50 or 50 to 100 have. And these could be the accountability solutions for you. Number 4, I wrote down, I started a thing called U.P.D. Mondays. I started a thing called U.P.D. Mondays. So just write down, start U.P.D. Mondays. And by the way, some of you guys are going to do all 11 of these. Some of you are going to take 5 or 6 of them. Either way, you're going to be further ahead. I can promise you that. Wow, that's really insulated. It's still hot from this morning. Okay. Started U.P.D. Mondays. What is U.P.D. Mondays? Well, in the Glover U world, you've heard the term Ultimate Prospecting Day. You guys all do it. These guys in the front, we've been teaching them to do this for years. But most of you have only heard of Ultimate Prospecting Day, right, Matt? It's the first of the month. Most of you think, yeah, we've heard, daily message, it's the first of the month, right? No. It's the first of the month for Gen Pop. It's the first of the month for the average producers that follow our system. Do you know what was for me? It was every Monday from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. When everyone else was going home or to the real producer happy hour to hang out with people that are never going to buy or sell homes with them, I was staying back in the office until 8 o'clock every single Monday. 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. And you know what I was doing? I was setting up my week. So that way when I got to Tuesday and I only needed 4 or 5 appointments set for the week, actually it was 6. I only needed 6 appointments set for the week because I knew I was going to go on 4 or 5 of those and I knew I was going to take 3 every week. I could get 2 or 3 on that Monday, and really all I need is 3 or a couple more for the rest of the week. I got the whole week to get the rest. U.P.D. Mondays from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. What does that look like? That looks like, fortunately, there was one plus, because you guys know I suit up every day. You dress for what you want, not for what you have. You dress for what you want your calendar to say, not what it currently says. I don't care that on a Tuesday your calendar says you don't have an appointment. You're dressing for one because you'll be prepared. That guitar pick, I think of when Robbie was telling that story, I'm thinking to myself, what is my guitar pick? What would be my guitar pick all these years? And do you know what it is? It's my suit. That's my guitar pick. Because if I'm always prepared and always ready, then I'm going to work harder to go find that opportunity because I spent $16 dry cleaning this damn thing. And I want to get some use out of it. So U.P.D. Mondays is an arrival of 7:55 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. in my case. Now, I didn't have to suit up on those days. Fortunately, I could go in casual because I wasn't going on appointments on those days. But it was following a strict routine to where essentially every 90 minutes to 2 hours, I had a mindset break, a coffee break, a BS break, whatever you want to call it, a lunch, back at it in the afternoon, a mindset break, back at it in the late afternoon, a short dinner break, back at it in the evening, every single Monday from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. I'm not giving you the 25 deal a year plan. I'm sorry. I'm giving you the 100 deal a year plan. Every Monday, not just the first of the month. Number 5. Many of you have heard this story before. I'll share it briefly. And it's called the door knock. Is somebody working on a reel out there? It's called the door knock at noon rule. It's called the door knock at noon rule. Okay, this was something that, for those of you that were at the retreat in Traverse City, you heard James talk about this rule that I had to follow, and that is if I didn't have an appointment set by noon, I had to spend 1 hour out door knocking. Now, I can't stand door knocking, okay? Anyone besides me just despise door knocking? Oh, come on, guys, get your hands up. Where are you? Really? Okay, the back half of the room, I got a special breakout session for you. My back half, we're going to let these guys all go into breakout. You guys are going to come with me. We're going to knock around all these doors in the Kierland area, all right? They got one weirdo in the room. There's always one. That was the rule. Jeff, you have until noon to set an appointment. You're spending 1 hour at the door. This goes back to why I suited up every day. Because I was going to have to go get in front of somebody no matter what, whether my calendar said it or not. You dress for what you want, not for what you have. If I didn't have an appointment set by noon, I had 1 hour at the door. 1 hour. And by the way, I kind of looked at it. Honestly, I tried to find some silver lining in it. And I think I did finally find some silver lining, Ron. I looked at it like this. All right, if I did have like a bogus appointment to go on, because you've been doing this for a while, you go on some bogus appointments. Not so great ones. You're driving. Why am I going on this thing? Whatever, I got nothing else to do. Let's go. And I found some silver lining in this rule. And here it was. I could either go on kind of a weak appointment and spend 30 minutes preparing, 30 minutes driving there, 30 or 40 minutes in front of a non-motivated seller, that is like dogs jumping all over me, they're smoking cigarettes, all this other stuff. 30 minutes driving back, that's 2 hours of my life. I know I hate it, but this door knocking rule thing, it kind of gives me an hour back, right? Because 30 minutes preparing, Sarah, 30 minutes driving, 30 minutes on the appointment, 30 minutes back, that's 2 hours of my life on kind of a weak appointment. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me I get an hour of my life back, all I got to do is go door knock for an hour? That's how I flipped the switch in my mind. It went from hating every second of doing this to, you know what, at least I'm not all the way in Sumter Township going on an appointment at a house with no power, which I went on a few of those. Number 7. Just checking. I implemented a no admin before lunch rule. And I created an acknowledgement process at 11:30. I implemented a no admin before lunch rule, and I created an acknowledgement process at 11:30 every morning. Again, I'm thinking about the nitty-gritty stuff. What was the no admin rule? I could not touch any admin before 11:30. Actually, the rule was noon, but I kind of found a little bit of a way around this. And so I created this process called acknowledgments because, I'm a big believer in giving great service. It's going to lead to referrals and business back to you. And so I thought, I can't possibly make my clients wait until 1:30 or 2 o'clock to hear from me. Like, that wouldn't be right, especially if they call me at 8 o'clock the night before or 7 o'clock the night before. I'm not going to make them wait until 1:30 or 2. But what I did acknowledge is that every time I make a decision to jump into admin, I'm saying bye-bye to a paycheck 30, 60, 90 days from now. Every day I make a decision to give up on my strong morning routine, I'm saying see you later to a paycheck 60 to 90 days from now. So what did I create? I created a rule that the morning was only client generation until 11:30. And from 11:30 to 12, I did this on my way to the gym. I did what's called acknowledgments. And the days that I'm in the office, I still do this today because I still have the 12 o'clock appointment with my trainer. And so what acknowledgments are is going back through every single call, every single text message, everything that happened that morning or the night before, letting them know you got their message and that you'll be back in touch with them. No, nobody said you had to jump in. Like, hey, tell me what's up, what's going on. Nope, it's short and sweet. It's a text message, it's an email. Want to let you know I got your message, Lloyd. I'll be in touch this afternoon. I know it's a big deal. I know it's important that we get this figured out before closing tomorrow. I'll be in touch this afternoon. No one had to wait until after 12 o'clock to at least hear that. I didn't start servicing. I did not dive into any admin. If you can think about it, if you can picture, the morning is all contacts, leads, appointments. Contacts, leads, appointments. Contacts, leads, appointments. And then 11:30 rolls around. I get up out of my chair. I start to head to the gym. I go through my phone. I see all my text messages, all my email. I know I need to be there by noon, and I know I'm only 15 minutes away. So I'll sit in my car for 15 minutes. I'll find the stuff that came in, the incoming calls, the incoming text messages, and I'll just respond. Got your message, be in touch this afternoon. Got your message, be in touch this afternoon. Got your email, be in touch this afternoon. Yep, I'm on it. I know it's important. I'll be in touch this afternoon. I'll be in touch this afternoon. I'll be in touch this afternoon. And then I handle it all in the afternoon. But you know what's great? Because I didn't start handling it right there, when I get to the gym and I put my phone in the locker, I got 45 minutes to myself and my trainer to do something to break a sweat to make me feel better. And I know that those problems are still going to be there when I get back to the office. And I shower, I get dressed, I go back to the office, and now I start servicing. And I spend the entire afternoon servicing business because at 8, 10, 12 transactions per month, regardless of your staff situation, you're going to have a lot of business to service. So I have to service the entire afternoon until about 4 o'clock when I start preparing for my first appointment. No admin in the morning. We took this so seriously. We implemented in our offices. Austin, you guys could do this. A no admin rule. You put a jar on top of your copier. And on that jar, it says, copier rule in effect. And the agents in our office, we created this within our team years ago, and because I wanted to live by it too, we created a rule that says if an agent is caught at the copier before 12 noon, they have to donate $20 to this jar. True story. I mean, we got to a point where we'd have some agents come into my office. I'll never forget, we had this guy named Harry, kind of a silly guy anyways. We had this guy named Harry. He said, Jeff, copier. And he'd want to slip me a 10 because he's trying to barter with me. Like, if I give you a 10, can I avoid not putting a 20 in this jar? Harry, it's $20. Do you need to use it that bad? Go put it in the jar. Okay. And he would go. This was the culture that we created. Why did we create this culture? Because there's no money to be made at the copier, just like there's no money to be made at the coffee pot, just like there's no money to be made at the water cooler. I'm not hanging out at any of those places in my office because those are driving income down, not driving income up. The morning is for finding business. The afternoon is servicing it. What little tweaks can you put into your routine to create that level of discipline that you don't touch admin in the morning? Because I can tell you right now, touching admin in the morning is the #1 killer of your goals. Touching admin in the morning is the #1 killer of your goals. Because, Jeff, it's so important. I have to give good service. You'll be able to give good service after lunchtime. That problem's not going anywhere. And you know what the best part of taking this philosophy? I didn't even plan on this. This was the cool part. If you take me up on this, I promise you. All right, you might have some haters in your market. I know I did for years. Oh yeah, don't even bother calling Jeff in the morning. He won't return your call. Don't even try getting a closing with Jeff or one of his agents in the morning. They believe in this hokey finding new business every morning thing. It's going to have to be in the afternoon if it's Jeff or one of his agents. You know what's interesting about that? If you take that approach and you can be okay with some of the haters that don't like your approach, half of the problems that were in the morning are gone by the afternoon. Isn't that interesting? I'm getting blown up for closings. The closing's happening at 4 o'clock. I'm getting blown up from the other agent. I send him a message at 11:30. I realize we have a closing this afternoon. I'll be in touch this afternoon. Trust me, I realize it's important. 1:30, 1:45 rolls around when I'm heading back from the gym. Hey, you're my first call. You're my first priority. I understand we have a closing today. I know sounds like there's a serious issue. What's up? We already all figured it out. Don't worry, Jeff. You know that happened probably more than half the time. All right. Next, I wrote down number 7. I had 5 accountability and role play partners, 1 per day. 5 accountability and role play partners, 1 per day. 5 days a week. Jeff, where do I find role play and accountability partners? Let me ask you a question. Show of hands if you're interested in improving your skills in 2025. Raise your hand real high, real high, real high. Now, I'm not just talking sales skills. It can be social media, it can be video. All right, take a look around. Take a look around. Everyone take a look around. Okay, some of you have already learned a technique that we teach called video play. Some of you are very familiar with role play and accountability. These are the same people. Notice it's the front half of the room in most cases. Come on, back half of the room. Who's interested in improving their skills in 2025? Come on, let's hear from the back half. There we go. These are the people to connect with. On break, instead of going out there and smoking a cigarette and drinking a Mountain Dew and returning a call, find someone to set up a regular accountability with. That problem's not going anywhere. It'll be there. Number 8. This is a tough one. I'm going to get through these 11 before break, so we're going to go like 5-7 minutes in your break. I'm sorry, because I got a lot to get to. Number 8. I scheduled call nights on the days that I didn't set one or generate anything at the door. I actually had a third penalty. Not a lot of people know this side because I have so many notes of things that I've done that in the early days, honestly, I was discouraged. People in the public would discourage me from sharing it because they say, Jeff, people aren't going to want to do those things. If you actually tell them what you did to sell 100 homes, they're not going to want to do it. So I'm sorry for doing you a disservice and not sharing the full story, but you're getting it now. I have call nights on days that I didn't set one over the phone or at the door. So what does that mean? Well, I had until noon to set an appointment, right? Say yes. If I don't have an appointment set by noon, what do I have to do? I have to go door for 1 hour. And you know what else I did? If I did not generate anything from the calling, if I did not generate anything from the knocking, I caused myself to have a penalty of 1 session of prospecting to finish the day for 45 minutes back at the office. That means many days and many nights I was driving past my house. I mean, literally, one of the doors I knocked was the next neighborhood over. I'm 7 minutes from home and my office is 27 minutes away. I would drive from the neighborhood of the door I knocked 27 minutes back to the office because I didn't set anything today as a penalty for myself to get 45 more minutes of calls in, because I know that if I put 45 minutes in the evening, then maybe, just maybe, I'll set something today. Now, of course, if you want to figure out setting up a home office situation or whatever, that's fine. You could do this from home. You don't have to go back to your office. For me, that's what it took. Because I knew once I got home and I put on my jammies, or, I got home and, whatever, maybe it was a Thursday night, I was younger during these early days. So it was like college night at some of the bars, and I'm changing, I'm out of work. No. I had to have the discipline 45 minutes. That's it. An extra 45 minutes on the days I didn't set anything. Call nights on the days I didn't set one. That's number 8. Number 9. You guys have heard me talk about this one before. Actually, let me ask you a question. Would you like to have a 30-day unfair advantage over your competition? A 1 full month advantage, meaning they're working off of a 12-month year and you're working off of a 13-month year. Raise your hand real high if you want a 1 month advantage over your competition. Here's how you do it. Ready? I want you to treat 30 Saturdays no different than you would treat your Wednesday. There's 52 Saturdays per year. I'm giving you permission to take 22 of them off. I want you to treat 30 Saturdays no different than a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, whatever your normal work day looks like. That's what my Saturdays look like, 30 of them a year. Because why? Because most of us are available for appointments. You got a buyer that wants to see houses, you go show. In fact, if I were to poll the whole audience, 100% of you would raise your hand. Who goes on appointments on Saturday, Sunday? You're all available for appointments, but you know what you're not doing? You're not treating Saturday like it's a Wednesday. Treat 30 Saturdays like it's a Wednesday, and I give you permission to take 22 weekends off. I promise you, if you identify the 30 Saturdays as part of your business plan, it's in there. We ask how many Saturdays for a reason. If you identify 30 Saturdays, you can take 22 weekends off and have probably the best year you've ever had. But what do most do? I'm available. I'll take a buyer out if they want to see a house. I'm available for your listing referral if you want to refer me. Yeah, I'll work this Saturday. No, your Saturday is scheduled no different than it's a Wednesday. 30 out of 52, take the other 22 off. You'll have a 1 month advantage over your competition. That's number 9. Number 10, I measure my results weekly. I measure my results weekly and the monthly results cumulatively. I measure my results weekly and the monthly results cumulatively. We kind of already touched on that, but I want you to write it down anyways. I focused on what's interesting? I didn't focus on selling 100 homes a year. You know what I focused on? Taking 3 listings a week. That was it. I knew, do the math. Now you're going to say, well, Jeff, your listing taken to sold ratio is terrible. You only needed to sell 103 a week. Hello, that's 150, 160 listings. All right, well, in the early days, it was 2008, 9, 10, 11. I had to take a lot more to get a lot to sell. I wrote down, reduce it down to the ridiculous. That's something I learned early on in sales. Reduce it down to the ridiculous, meaning it's just a small number. I don't want you to think about the 50. I don't want you to think about the 100. I don't want you to think about the 75. I reduced it down to 3 listings taken a week. And if I could take 3 listings a week, then I would always sell over 100 houses a year. That's number 10. Number 11, final point before we break. I told the world about my plans. Some of it was unintentional, by the way. I told the world about my plans. I was very fortunate to meet a young man. I'll finish on this story before we take a break. I was very fortunate to meet a young man by the name of Ryan Kreidoff, who I hope you guys get to meet at our next retreat. I've been chatting with him a bit over the last 6 months. And I said, Ryan, do you remember, he was a trainer. So when I sold 100 homes that first year, I was also a trainer for Kathy and Paul Schweitzer. So I was responsible for what they called their success center. I would teach agents how to prospect, and I would prospect with them. And, I was doing kind of 2 jobs. And Ryan was a trainee in this classroom. He was like one of my first students, if you will. We took a liking to each other. We were both around the similar age. We hung out a lot. He actually ended up becoming a roommate. He actually rented a room for me. He wasn't from Detroit. He was from Holland, Michigan. And he said, Jeff, I just broke it off with my girl. I understand you've got a decent sized house. Do you have potentially a bedroom that you could spare? Could I rent from you? And he said, and if it's all right with you, I will like help you in your business. I don't know how I can help because I don't know as much as you do, but like, I really just want to learn from you. And it would mean the world to me if we could work something out, financially where I could help you and I could learn from you. Anyways, this guy, he was on my coaching calls. James will tell you, oh, is Ryan there too? Yeah, Ryan would be on my coaching calls. I let him into my world. And he was a trainee the year that I set the goal to sell 100 homes, but he was a friend. And he was on a couple coaching calls, and one of the calls, James said, Jeff, the more people you tell about your goal, the more likely it is to happen. And I remember that from that call, and I remember Ryan actually writing that down. And I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, where's he going with this? And isn't it interesting? I remember when James was giving that advice, and I think back, isn't it interesting today? Like, you set a goal to improve your health every year. Most of you do probably. But if you don't tell anyone about it, and it doesn't happen, it's not really the end of the world. You're not embarrassed. You always got next month. You got next year. You got next New Year's resolution. No big deal. Whatever. I'll get to it when I can. But isn't it interesting when you set a goal and you tell everyone about it? Now all of a sudden, there's embarrassment involved. Now all of a sudden, there's letting people down. A good analogy is a workout partner. If you don't have a schedule to meet someone at the gym at 6 a.m. and you wake up with a headache, or you're tired because of whatever you did the night before, then your brain tells you things like, I think your body would probably value a little bit more sleep. I think sleep is probably what you need right now. I don't think working out is the best thing for your health. Anybody ever have those voices in their head? But isn't it interesting how if you have a workout partner at 6 a.m. on that same day, no matter what's being said in your head, if you don't show up, they're going to sit in their car waiting on you to get there. So you're going to go. And so Ryan wrote down the note of tell the world about it. And he made it his personal mission everywhere we went in town. Bars and restaurants. Mind you, this is, my young 20s. Everywhere we went. Hey, you meet this guy? If you don't know who his name's Jeff Glover, you're going to know him one day. Do you want to know why? This is like a waiter in a restaurant. Why? Well, he's going to sell 100 homes next year and you're going to hear about it. He would tell everyone. We would go to this one restaurant called the Penn Grill and Bar, and it was owned by the #1 producer in Plymouth, Michigan. And his wife would work the bar. And the #1 producer in Plymouth, Michigan and I worked in the same office. He also worked for the Schweitzers. We worked in the same office. And Ryan and I, after a long day or whatever, he'd sit at the bar and his wife would, pour us a beer or whatever. He'd say, hey, guess what? You're going to get to know this guy real soon. Why is that? Well, because he can beat the butt off your husband real soon. He would Ryan, I'd have to smack him. This is a true story. He would do this all the time. We would walk into the office and he'd catch one of the agents looking at the board in the back. It was in the back when you walked in the office. If Sandy Radin is in the room, I know she was one of the agents at the time. He'd see agents looking at the board and looking at my production numbers. And then he'd see this other team, which was like the #1 team in town. And he'd say, get used to it. We're crushing you guys this year. He would say this to the agents on this other team. And he's not even on my team. He's a roommate of mine. So it was early in 2008, because that was the first year over 100, 102 that year. No team, no admin, just Ryan's level of accountability. January 2008, cold, snowy day. I'm walking to my car in the parking lot. And I noticed something on the back of my car. And, I never had been any sort of like vanity plate guy or anything like that. So I didn't even know how to change your license plate. Well, Ryan, remember, he was a roommate. So he had access to my VIN number. He had access to my driver's license. And I'm walking to my car and I see this plate on the back of my car. True story. He ordered this because he had my driver's license number. You could do it all online if you had the VIN and all this stuff. And he put this on the back of the car. And he would intentionally tell the agents in the office, did you see Jeff's new license plate? Did you see Jeff's new license plate? Every time, Ryan, stop. Now, why was I telling him to stop? I was telling him to stop because that was my mind saying, this is going to be really flippin' embarrassing if I don't do this. And you understand that that's what your mind is telling you every time you're in a room like this and you think great thoughts. You get back to your room, or the next day you get back to your hotel, you get back home, and someone is knocking you down. And you know who that someone is? It's usually right up here. Because had he not put this message out, had he not said, no, we're telling the world about you doing 100 deals this year. Most people, 108, what does that even mean? It didn't matter. I knew what it meant every single time I walked to that car, after I left the office with an appointment or not, that I am going to be flat out embarrassed if we put all this out there and it doesn't happen. So my question is, what level of accountability could you commit to that makes you that uncomfortable? That puts you in a spot to where you proclaim you're going to do this. Now, I know it's a silly example, but even the 21 to live unreal, that was actually a version of it. Because the commitment you made is you had to post every single day for 21 days. So if you make that commitment and you get to day 8 or 9 or 10 or 7 or whatever, and you don't feel like it, now you're embarrassed. I couldn't even get to 7 days. Now I know we had a great gym session this morning. Where's my 21 to live unreal crew? Where are you guys at? Raise your hands real high, real high. We're at a great session this morning. We completed the 21 days. But this is the level of accountability I'm talking about. You want to keep messing around with 20, 30, 40 transactions a year? Just keep tweaking things. Just keep adding a few things here and there. You want to have a breakthrough? You're going to have to identify a few things that are uncommon, that don't make you feel good, and maybe would make you even a little embarrassed to do it. That's the difference between having a great 2025 and making 2025 your absolute best year ever.